Hi and welcome back to my channel. It's a new lovely weekend here in Sweden. Almost summer-like weather again, although it's late September going on October. I'm gonna try and get the rest of my firewood down from the hill behind the house so I can stack it and measure it for the axe cordwood challenge. And I'm gonna start with a little pile I left here in the last video. Then I'll go up on the hill again with the four-wheel trolley I have standing up there. If I can continue using that, I'm not sure. 4 wheels was a bit of a tall order in the difficult terrain. Maybe I'll have to take a wheelbarrow up there as well, even though I don't really like long terrain walks with wheelbarrows, but maybe that's the best way to go. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to press on a bit because it's sunny and nice now, but in the afternoon it's gonna rain. And subscribe to the channel by all means if you haven't already done so. I thought I'd talk a bit about how I stack my firewood, because I got an unfriendly comment when I posted a picture of the stack in the Axe Cordwood Challenge group on Facebook. And the guy told me I was doing it all wrong. Cross-stacking it like this would make the pile rot. And the only right way to do it was stacking it as he's been taught by his father, in straight rows facing the same direction with the bark side up to protect it from rain. Yeah, I don't think he got the concept with these stacks, because I'm not stacking it to dry here. As you have seen in my previous videos, this wood has already been stacked out in the woods the entire summer to dry. The cross stacking is to keep it stable so I can measure it before I get it into the shed before the winter. And if I expect rain, as we had the last couple of days, I just put roof plates on top of it. So there's no danger at all that this firewood will become wet. And sure, stacking it in rows with the bark side up might be a good way to stack your firewood, but we are usually taught here in Sweden, and I think it's the same principle in the rest of the Scandinavian region and probably the whole Baltic region, to stack firewood bark side facing down, because that's helping the moisture in the wood evaporate and rise quicker, so it dries quicker. I usually stack it like that, but I don't totally pledge to it. So I finish my rows with the bark side up, the last 1 or 2 rows perhaps. And I put the branches from the trees down on the ground, and I make the rows on top of those to create some airflow between the ground and the firewood, so I don't get any problems with the moisture coming up from the ground either. And that's how I do it. And there are many ways to do it. And just because your dad told you how to do it, that's just one way. It doesn't even mean it's the best way. And anyway, if you want to discuss how you should or should not stack firewood, you should try and do it in a polite manner and not like a bully. Because I don't know about you, but I tend to stop listening immediately when people come on to me like that. And if I need to gather information, I can ask polite people. I don't have time for bullies. So stack your firewood in a way you choose, as long as you are aware about keeping it safe from moisture, both from the ground and from the rain. If you do like me and stack it against trees, you also have some protection from the canopies during the summer before they lose their leaves. But you can also cover your firewood piles out in the woods if you are not sure. I know Glenn Urquhart does that sometimes. He uses the kind of plastic you uses vapor barriers in construction. I guess that would be a good way, easy to carry out in the woods. If you just make an air gap between the firewood logs and the plastic with some branches or something, I think you should be alright. I've always found it's enough to just turn the last couple of rows around and have the bark set up on them. And that, in combination with the protection from the canopies, that's always rendered me dry firewood. But do as you want, as long as you are aware of these things. And now, that's all I've got to say about stacking firewood for the moment. I'm gonna continue stacking the firewood I'm bringing down from the hill in the manner of my own choice. That's the firewood I left in the slope in my last video. It's all from one tree that I felled and bucked last winter. It's given me about 31 by 20 by 50 inches, which is 80 by 55 maybe by 120 centimeters. Not sure what it is in feet, but I'm sure you're totally capable to calculate that yourself. It's about time I go inside and get some lunch before I continue. If the weather holds, it's looking good right now. I'm just gonna cross my fingers the forecast has changed and I'll have this weather for the rest of the day. The rest of the weekend would be even better. Anyway, I'm gonna get something to eat and continue later. So as you can see, it's quite a trip to come to this little stack. The first one I got down from the hill in my last video was the closest to the house. Now it's a lot more of a terrain walk involved. I'm gonna try and get this down as quickly as possible. It's starting to rain a little bit now. I'm not sure if I can manage more than one trip before I have to call it a day, but it is Saturday today and I have one more day tomorrow, and the Sunday is supposed to be nice and sunny. So I'll do what I have time to do now and I'll get back to it tomorrow. A quick look at this row first then. It's stacked underneath two trees. The branches from the tree is in the bottom of the row. You can't see it in this footage, but you'll have to take my word for it. And I finished it off with the bark side up, some small chips really, just put them here as rain covers. And this is fairly dry, even though it's been raining a little bit the last 2 days. Just a bit of moisture on the top here. That'll dry up quickly. And once it's dried, the rain usually doesn't penetrate the wood that much either, if it's not going on for days and days on end. But usually putting the last few layers with the bark up protects it good enough. Look down here, this is bone dry, or firewood dry at least, which is what we want, right? The rain is picking up, so I have to hurry back home with this load and continue this tomorrow. It's a new day again, and the sun has come out, the rain has passed. I almost managed to get the trolley all the way down to the place where I'm stacking the firewood, but this last slope up here was a bit tricky. I gained too much speed going down here, so well, it ended up here. I put the roof plate over it at least to protect it a bit, so this should be nice and dry. I'm just gonna get it down to the pallets and stack it before I go up in the woods and get some more. There's a problem. This last slope leans too much to the right towards the smithy. So I can't really use the trolley down this hill. I'm gonna have to resort to wheelbarrow. So I'm gonna do like I did before in my previous video and just tip the trolley load over the edge down the last slope and bring it down with the wheelbarrow the last bit. Right then, at least I tried it. That's one thing that's crossed my mind. I'm pretty sure one or two of you have also been thinking about it. And that is the method of cross stacking I'm using to keep the stack nice and stable before I measure it up and put it into the shed. I'm thinking maybe this way of stacking creates bigger air gaps between the fire logs than you get when you stack it in the same direction in a rows as usual. And if so, I will not get correct measurements of how much firewood I actually have here. So what I think I will do is I'll stack it all up like this, leave it for as long as the autumn is warm and windy, so it dries up a little bit further. Then I will put it into a shed, and in the shed I will stack it in rows the same direction. And I will measure it again in there and see how much difference there actually is between cross stacking and stacking in rows. So I'm gonna make an experiment out of it. That's gonna be interesting, I think. If you have any thoughts on this, share them in the comments. Still nice and dry up here, even though I didn't have anything to cover it with yesterday when the rain came. But the canopies of these trees have protected it pretty good, I think. Not much of that rain actually came down onto the ground here, closest to the trees. These are the thinner branches from the tree I cut the firewood from. I put them on the ground to create airflow underneath the firewood. It doesn't get it up much from the ground, but it's enough. Especially if you stack the firewood bark side down, because then you have some protection from the ground moisture that way. Absolutely beautiful weather today. Anyway, this is the final run from this place. I went looking at the next firewood stack I want to take down to the house, and I realized the terrain is way too difficult for 4 wheels there, so I'm leaving the trolley here and I'm gonna try and bring it down with a wheelbarrow. And I think there's a fallen tree in the way, so I will also bring an axe if I need to sever it and get it out of the way. This is a handy thing if you want to bring an axe and have your hands full. A sling. If you want to see how I made it, there's a video on my channel, a video of me making 3 masks for axes, and in the end of that I also make this sling. So you can go and look at that if you're interested later. Here it is, a rotten birch tree that's blocking the path. The trunk had already broken in half, right where I wanted to bucket again. So nature did its job, so I didn't have to. Need to get rid of this though. Right, the road is open again. The top layers here are a little bit damp because in this case I didn't stack the last layer with the bark side up for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe because I came across it sometime after I put it up and then it had toppled over, so I just threw it back up really quickly. Maybe I didn't pay too much attention then. Anyway, it's just the first layer. Underneath that it's nice and dry. If you've been on the channel before, maybe you recognize this location. Or maybe you don't. But this is where I put some of the firewood from my wet felling video. The technique you can use if you fell birch primarily after the sap has started rising. It's an interesting technique if you don't know about it, and you can go back and check that later if you want to. I hope I can get this down in 2 runs. The wheelbarrow doesn't take as big a load as the trolley. No, this is going to be 3 runs. Might as well not overload it, because it is quite a trip from here down to the house. There's another advantage using the wheelbarrow and not the trolley, and that is I don't have to tip the firewood over the edge. I can go in a zigzag route down another way, all the way to the pallets. I'm gonna stack this load up and then I'm gonna go back up there and try to get the rest of it down before sun sets. But I won't shoot that. So I'll see you again at the next little stack. My plans to continue immediately with the firewood last time I shot came to a halt. I was struck by some sort of flu virus twice, and we had lots and lots of rain with no end. It must be about 2 weeks or a little bit more since I was last up here. And since then, autumn has come to Sweden, or our part of Sweden. Which is nice. The colors out in the nature is really wonderful this time of year, but it makes me feel even more pressed for time to get the last of the firewood in. So I'm gonna do that today, hopefully, with the able help of our son, Samson. Ja, ska du vara med? Well, it's clearly noticeable. It's been raining quite a lot last couple of days. But after restacking it down at the house, there will be some time for it to dry up there as well, and we expect some sunny weather before the winter sets in. And I think it's mostly superficial, and the wettest ones are the ones on top. Further down the stack it's pretty dry. So I think it's gonna be alright. There is quite a lot of pine needles in it. Maybe I'll try to sort that out for next season. Stack it a little bit tighter perhaps, to avoid getting so much debris in between the fire logs. Pine needles and leaves and that kind of stuff that gets down in between the fire logs, that holds quite a lot of moisture. And we don't want extra moisture in our firewood, do we? Ja. Ja, vi ska gå. Ska vi gå tillbaka? Ja. This is the smallest one of the 2 firewood stacks I have left out in the woods to bring home. I hope it's gonna be done in 3 runs. I didn't load the wheelbarrow that much now for the first run because I want to try out the path first. So anyway, I'm gonna press on, and you can keep watching. You can also subscribe if you want to help my channel out a bit. And, like and comment and tell your friends and all of that good stuff, you know. I decided not to stack every barrel load I bring down from the hill, but just dump it here and stack it all later when I'm done with the running back and forth. I think that's gonna be a bit more efficient. I'm also gonna lose my hat and probably this woolen sweater as well, because the sun has come out, although it is proper autumn weather now, and I'm also building some heat running with a wheelbarrow. There, that's better. I'm gonna do the last runs from this small firewood stack without shooting, and I'll see you back at the last stack for the season. There it is, the last little stack of firewood for the season, in the most inaccessible area, at least if you are bringing it home with a wheelbarrow. So I guess I'm just gonna go up there and toss it down and load the wheelbarrow down here. Right, then let's see how wet it became from all the rain these last few days. Well, it's a bit damp, but it's mostly the top ones, and it's mostly superficial, it seems. There's a little bit of pine needles and some leaves in between them, but not a whole lot. I stacked this against a dead tree, so there's no canopy above it that has been able to protect it. It's not a big deal. The first layer or two is a bit damp from the rain. When I'm down to the 3rd layer, it's already pretty dry. I don't think I will have any great problems with this either. I'll toss it down to the wheelbarrow and get it home, get it restacked. Give it some time to dry up further before I put it in the shed. that's the first run from the last pile of firewood. I'm gonna try and shoot a little bit more of it. Just gonna put Samson's little shoe back on, which he managed to get off his foot again. I wonder if there is such a product as baby glue to keep shoes and mittens and whatnot on them. If somebody would like to invent that, that'll make you pretty rich, I think. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to get all of this last stack down today. It's 4 in the afternoon and the sun sets pretty early now that autumn has set in, and it is a pretty long and cumbersome trip to get there and back. Also, my little helping hand on the back, he's mostly help when it comes to build character, I'd say. I definitely like getting Samson out in the forest. I think it's a good thing that he gets used to it early. So hopefully he'll also enjoy being outdoors when he grows up. I actually have some plans to start building some sort of combined bushcraft camp and play site up here on the hill, so the whole family can enjoy getting up here. But being just over 1 year old, he's not much physical help in bringing home the firewood. He mostly helps me strengthening my back muscles, actually. I guess it's a pretty noisy ride, putting a tripod right inside of an empty wheelbarrow. This is the closest I get to GoPro footage. Steadicam. I guess this should be referred to as unsteadicam. Here we are again.
Oh.
last little stack I did in 3 runs. I don't think I'm gonna manage to do this in as few trips. I'm deliberately keeping the loads a bit light now, so I don't get trapped on roots and rocks and small cavities, and also so I don't lose my stamina too quickly. I would really like to get this done before sun sets completely, since the forecast promises more rain tomorrow. Happy days. But today it's really nice outside. I'm trying to make the most of it. Steady now, unsteady cam. Steady, I say. Well, I guess this is going to have to be the last of the forest footage for this video. I really need to get this done. And as much as I enjoy these unsteady cam shots, they take too much time, and I'm also putting my camera into jeopardy a bit. I'll see you down at the firewood stack by the house. Can you do something? Nah. Dee 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 dee. Well, that's the second run of plenty, I guess. I don't know, 5 or 6 runs, and as a total I think is a fair estimate. So I'll get back to you when it's time to stack it all. Now me and Samson have to press on. I don't have time to work the camera at the same time. Sixth and final wheelbarrow from the hills today and for this season. 6 of them. It turned out to be twice as many as the first stack, but this was a bit more than 1.5 birches, and also bigger than the birch I cut and stacked on the first little pile. I don't think I'm gonna stack it tonight. The sun is coming down. It's closing in on 6 in the evening. And Samson has to eat, and so do I. I'm gonna cover it. I'll put some plates over it and we'll go inside for dinner. That'll have to do. Two days since I put the roof plates over firewood, and it's protected it fairly well from the rain we had since then. So now it's time to stack it. And do a final measurement of the amount of firewood I have here. I got a little bit of rain. Some of them that the plates didn't cover, but it'll dry up once I stacked it and leave it for a little bit. The main part of it hasn't been touched by rain, so that's nice. I'm trying to find large logs mainly to put as the first layer in the bottom, especially out in the corners, to ensure as much as possible a stable stack. Well, I'm not gonna overdo it, but trying to do it a little bit like that anyway. Just as before, I'm trying to put the shorter fire logs in the middle of the stack, the longer ones on the corners and the edges, using small chips like this to just even out the layers a bit when needed. But it's a process that I don't want to spend too much time on, because that would just be illogical. So I'm adjusting a little bit on the go, but I'm not trying to turn it into science or anything. Big fat one here that goes on the edge. Lots of other fatties. Put them on the corner. There might not even be 100% cross stacking in the middle here. Doesn't really matter as long as it's fairly even. From what I have heard, there's actually a tradition of making stacks with nice and stable perimeters and just fill up the inner part of it loosely. Round stacks are made like that, I think. It's a pretty strong tradition in Sweden. Some people really like to do it. It's like a ceremonial thing for them, almost, it seems. I'm not super bothered with ceremony as it comes to firewood myself, but I also like the idea of making the stacking process enjoyable. The round stacking people seem to enjoy their stacking quite a lot. Maybe I'll try it sometime, I don't know. Perhaps making a pretty round stack could be an interesting subject for a video for next season. What do you think about that? Tell me in the comments. If you've done a round stack, maybe you have some tips and tricks to put there as well. That would be helpful. I've never done one myself. I think my main priority for next season will be to decrease the amount of work and logistics with the firewood. I will make a better platform here down at the house so I can stack it in rows with supports on the sides instead of cross stacking it like I do now. But you know, trying to find time to be up in the woods working with firewood and hewing and trying to get some sort of bushcraft playground come along at the same time as I have to go away and work for money, and we have a 1-year-old son to raise. It's hard to find time for everything you want to do, so that's why I didn't make any supports for the firewood here. This works for sure, but stacking it in rows with side supports would probably be better. And as I said before, that would also give me more correct measurements when I want to add up how much I've made and translate that into cords. Since we don't usually measure firewood in cords in Sweden, we measure it in cubic meters. Well, it's always nice to have some projects in the pipeline, isn't it? Keep your life more interesting. Another interesting comment I got when I posted a picture of my stacks in the Axe Cordwood Challenge group on Facebook, I think it was. Or perhaps it was on one of my former videos, I can't remember now. Was that a guy thought this isn't firewood. In America this is called sticks or whatever he said. Like the small stuff I have here. But I think he was commenting on my small stack on the far end here. There is from small wood from around the garden. Small cherry trees and saplings and lilac that we cut down and I made into firewood. Well, my first thought on a comment like that is, don't sticks burn in America as well? And we have a wood burning stove in our kitchen. We can't put giant pieces of firewood like this into that. That'll never burn. And even when I light our main fireplace, I can't start with that. Neither can you, I suppose. You have to split kindling anyway. So even these small things, if they end up in the firewood pile anyway when I cut it up in the forest, I bring them down because I'll need to cut small kindling to start my fires anyway. I thought it was a bit of a strange comment. Maybe there's a macho thing to it or something, that nothing below these sizes should be considered real firewood for real men, or what was the idea with that comment? I can't really interpret it in any other way than that, because I need all kinds of sizes to start fires when I use my firewood. I don't just cut it to make nice ricks and cords and show off to others. I actually cut it to use it. But of course it's nice to show off your piles to others. I think a lot of us enjoy that. Nothing wrong with that. And it's also nice to get some sort of appreciation for your work. Encouraging each other to keep going. I think that's a good thing. Anyway, here's a pretty good mix of firewood, I think. Those are reasonably large-sized logs, and here are some small stuff to start the firewood. Even some smaller to get in there first. And then if you are burning in a big fireplace where you can use it, you can put these on when you have got the fire going. But to think that you only need this and a little bit of this is slightly ignorant, I'd say. It's easy to start fiddling with the small stuff in the middle, trying not to get into it too much, because that's the sort of thing that eats up too much time in the end. And some large ones for the corners and the edges. Well, that's all of it. I was hoping to fill it up a little bit more. Could have used just one of these 2 pallets for this last pile of firewood, but anyway, it's here now. I'll cover it with the roof plates again and let it sit here, protected from rain, to dry up a couple of weeks before I put it into the firewood shed. But first, I'm gonna try and get some decent measurements and see how much it is as it is stacked now, crosswise. I'm gonna get the roof plates off of it so I can measure it without tipping my nice coffee cup over and destroying that. This is my stack of small wood from the garden. It's all this type of stuff. And I can tell you, no matter where in the world you live, I think these sticks burn. And they will burn especially well in our cooking stove in the kitchen. Time to do some measuring and adding up. This pile of small wood tapers a bit up towards the top. So it's 80 centimeters wide at the bottom. That's about 31.5 inches, but it's more like 70 at the top, 27.5. So I'm gonna put down 70 to round off downwards. 160 by 70 by 70 centimeters, which is 63 by 27 by 27, you could say. It's actually 27.5 by 27.5. This next section that I stacked on these black plastic pallets, it is 160. The pallets are 120, but it comes out to 130, but then up here it goes into 110, so I'm gonna call it 120 anyway. The height is 105. Seems to be pretty consistent. And again, that's in centimeters. And that translates into 63 by 47 by 41 inches. Next section, close to that, similar size pallet, but that's further down towards the ground, since the ground is uneven here, so I couldn't include that in the measurement. And do that separately. So we have the same depth here, which is following the measurement of the pallet, which is 120. It's more like 110 up here, so I'm calling this 110 so I don't add on too much. And in this direction it's 80 centimeters. So 110 by 80, and the height of it is 115 I get here. About the same all over, slightly lower in the back end. I'm calling it 110 then. 110 by 80 by 110. 43 by 31 by 43 inches approximately. Now for the last section I just stacked 120 in that direction, so I get 170 almost, but I'm calling it 160 again, just to not get too happy numbers. 120 by 160, and the height is not that high, well, 50. And that is 63 by 47 by 20 inches. I'm gonna calculate the volume of it. I've done the numbers now. I've rounded it down a little bit, and in cubic meters, as I'm used to measure, it's 4.8 approximately. And that translates into 169.5 cubic feet, which should be about 1.32 cords. A bit less than I was hoping, but then again I haven't had all the time in the world to be up in the forest. So I will stack it up in rows in the firewood shed later and see what it turns out to be. Perhaps it's about 1 cord in the end. It's a total. But that's it, it's stacked now. It's 1.32 cords according to my measurements and rounded down numbers. So that's what I accomplished this year. But the final measurement I will do later when I put it in the firewood shed. But for now, this is it. I thank you for watching. I hope you have been following this process along. If you haven't, you can always go back and look at my other videos. There's a few hours of slow entertainment for you there, if you need it. Anyway, I hope you'll be back for my next video, when I will do something else than stacking firewood for once. It's been a while now. But until then, take care. See ya.